Hello, Fetti friends. I'm back with another inspiration station. Normally I don't do this many, but I had the opportunity to do an extra one and I grabbed it with both hands because I find this so fun. Now my inspiration was a phone background wallpaper thingy. It's just a fun pattern, I thought, and I liked the colors and I liked the tropical leaves. And I liked the idea that it was a background, so I used it as that. Now I am going to start here with my focal points, and those are from the Hummingbirds stamp set by Reverse Confetti, of course, and I'm stamping those in some alcohol marker friendly ink onto Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock. Once that's done, I am going to leave those stamps where they are in my Misti, and I am going to color my images. I like an embossed outline, so I want to do that, but I can't do that when I'm coloring with alcohol markers because alcohol markers and embossed outlines don't agree. You will rub away the embossing and it can actually get in the nib of your marker and ruin your marker, so I want to avoid that. So I am going through that little extra step of stamping it a second time later. Now I'm not gonna lie, this kind of coloring is something I have never done before, and it took me a while to get it right or to get it where I wanted it to be. So what I'm trying to do here is go from one color family to the next, and I'm doing that 3 times in this one tiny hummingbird, but I do want to add a little bit of shading as well. So I start with the darkest shade of each of the colors. I'm using purple, teal, and green. And then I can blend the lightest colors of those color families together. And I worked on this quite a while just to build up the layers and to get everything to blend nicely. So if you have good cardstock to blend your markers on, you can totally layer up those layers to get a nice even blend, even when the blend is a little bit more challenging. And I stuck to the cooler side of the color spectrum for this bird because the rest of my card is going to be pretty warm and I wanted that contrast. So for the flowers, I'm going to use some oranges and some pinks. I am going to show you how I colored one flower and then we'll move on to how I created this wonderful little background. I always color from darkest to lightest. I just like to color that way, but you do you. I really like the control I have with this, and as I said, I have pretty good paper for my markers, so I can layer those layers on and it's not going to rip up my paper or going to cause any trouble of bleeding or anything like that. So if I can't blend out the darkest color immediately, that's absolutely fine. I can just try and try again, and eventually it will blend together. So I put that paper back in my Misti and the stamps were still in place. So I stamped it again with Versafine Onyx Black, and then I can heat emboss this with Wow Clear Gloss Superfine Embossing Powder. Once that's sprinkled on, I can heat set it, and this will just create that glossy outline look that I love so much. Again, you don't have to do this extra step, I just think it's worth it. I really like the look of it. So yeah, if you do watercoloring or anything like that, you absolutely don't need to stamp it twice. You can just start with the embossing powder. It's just that alcohol markers and the embossing powder don't really work well together. For my background, I am basing myself off my inspiration picture, which I showed at the start of this video and which you'll see in the blog post as well. But I want to use these tropical leaves in my background, but I also want to use a new to me product, which is the stamping foam by Hurley. And that is going to give me a really easy watercolor background. So the stamps are facing up on that paper and I heated up the foam just for a couple seconds, maybe 30 seconds. I wasn't sure how long I was supposed to heat it up for. And then you can press that foam into the stamps and you will create a negative image. Is that what it's called? I don't know. I really like it. It's It's comparable to an emboss resist without the embossing powder and without any harsh lines. You will really get a fun, soft watercolor look with this, depending on how much water you add. So I'm rubbing on some ink cubes, just some teals, some green and some yellow, because I based myself off that background, though I did add that teal because I need some creative freedom. And then I can spritz on some water, and that is going to get that ink flowing around. The more you spritz, the more the ink is going to move and the less of a defined image you're going to get. So I went about half-half. I could have done more, and the images would have been a little bit more subtle, but if I had spritzed 2 more times, I think I wouldn't have seen the leaves anymore in that background. So that's also why I immediately afterwards heat set this. Because the longer you leave this out, as with any watercolor project, the more the water is going to move around and create some different patterns, or maybe even just let the lines disappear. So I didn't want that to happen, so I grabbed my heat tool again and just sped up the drying process. And I am so happy with how this background turned out. It was ridiculously quick to do, and I immediately made 2 more backgrounds. So you can reheat this foam and it will melt back to its original state, and you can do this over and over with the same foam block. Now, I was so excited about this background that I stopped recording, went to show my parents, and then when I came back, I forgot to hit record again. So in the meantime, what you missed is I put this card together. So I die cut out the background just with a stitched die. And then I put it on some cardboard to prop it up and give it some dimension. And I put that on a piece of green cardstock. So I matted that background with some green cardstock on top of my card base. And then I propped up the images as well on foam tape, and that's it. So a really easy card to put together, but so much fun with that watercolor background. And whenever I do a watercolor background, I like to color with alcohol markers because I like that contrast as well. The watercolors are a lot more fluid and the alcohol markers are usually a lot more vibrant than the watercolor background. I think that it's a little bit reversed this time with that hummingbird and how I colored it, but it's still a nice contrast with the background because my background turned out a little bit more bright than I expected it to. I added some gems, and now I'm folding a matching envelope. So I went back to my inspiration for the leaves. I just took some pattern paper for that, but I like that the inside of this pattern paper happens to be pink because that matches my florals as well on this card. A really fun card to make. I can't wait to make more backgrounds. And I also loved coloring that hummingbird. It was a little bit challenging for me, but so much fun and so rewarding when it was finally done. I hope you liked this week's inspiration station for Reverse Confetti, and I hope you subscribe to the newsletter so you can see all the inspiration from all the designers. It's a really fun newsletter. I'm subscribed myself, and I don't subscribe to many newsletters like this, but I always have a lot of fun when it comes to my mailbox and checking out all the products, or all the projects, I should say. I hope you like my inspiration station, and I hope to see you next time for another Reverse Confetti video. Next time is going to be more Easter cards on Tuesday. So I hope to see you then. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.